Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this platform. Today we have with us Sister Gopi. She is an international speaker and she has been following the Raj Yoga meditation for more than 40 years. She is here with us today to educate us on the philosophy of karma. I would humbly request all of you to make sure that your mics are on mute. And if you have any questions, kindly drop them at the chat box and we shall address it to Sister Gopi towards the end of the session and she'll try and answer them for you. Thank you very much, Sister Gopi. Welcome. Over to you now.
Thank you, Jabeen. And also, hello to everybody, wherever you are in the world. Is the sound okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. So it's always customary in the Brahma Kumaris to start with a moment of silence. We call it an Om Shanti moment. So I'm going to invite you for a few moments to just step inside. Let everything become peaceful. And let yourself come to a state of rest. Rest your mind, rest your intellect, and rest your body. And come back into the awareness of being a living energy inside. Om Shanti. So today's topic is the philosophy of karma. And I think we began some conversation about it yesterday amidst all the complications of technology. So I'd like to share and perhaps reinforce how we began the topic yesterday. Karma is as famous as the word God. It's often used in context to punish. It's often used as in another context to control. It can be used in a context for reward. And yet, what does it mean to understand this law for my own benefit and my own progress? We know in the world that when we follow laws, order remains. And when we break laws, it creates disorder, chaos, anarchy. And so deeply understanding how this law works is very important for spiritual progress in life. And at the same time, accepting this law is as important, because sometimes we can follow a law, but internally we're following it out of duress, duty. We haven't understood why we're following it. And so there isn't complete acceptance inside. And as a result, there won't be alignment. So the first place I wanted to start with was that, the word karma itself literally means action. Most of you know that. And there are so many things that's an act. Picking up a glass of water is an act. Thinking, creating a thought about something is an act. Me speaking right now is an act. Me bathing is an act. And so we perform so many actions in a day. And yet, what are the fruits of those actions? And within the Raj Yoga philosophy, we talk about karma in 3 different categories. We talk about elevated karma, positive karma, vikarma, that's negative karma, and neutral karma. And so throughout the sharing over the next 45 minutes, I'll be explaining what makes karma positive, elevated, negative, and neutral. Because, people often, when they think of the word karma, they think of it in terms of the past. And then it's like, oh, I'm fated for this. This is destined for me. I can't do anything about it. But the whole machinery of karma has 3 different dimensions: past, present, and future. And so if I'm able to realize the karma that I've been doing that's wrong or that's a mistake, and I realize that in this moment now, then I can reverse the track of my future karma. I'm not at the mercy of fate. I don't have to be at the mercy of my past karma. How does that happen? Now, one of the first places to begin is the understanding of dharma. In many religious contexts, dharma is a word that's used for religion, for righteousness. And yet there are 2 words that are very deeply linked together: dharma and dharana. The first one is a set of principles, my inner set of values, my pure bhavna, the thing that I uphold inside me that is valuable. That's my dharana, my dharma. And then my dharana is the expression of that value through my character. So if I value, for example, if my dharma is peace, and I value peace tremendously, then how will that be expressed in my dharana, my character? It may be expressed as patience. I will love, I will express and uphold this value of peace as patience in my life. So in many ways, what tends to happen now as, I suppose in the world, materialism's increased, the dependency on facilities has increased. And so if we have money, okay, we can make shortcuts. We have facilities, we can make shortcuts, and we live with dependencies. And what that's created for us is a bondage of karma, because we live comfortably, but perhaps not contentedly or happily. And what can then start to happen is that we become careless about our dharma and our dharana. So we take shortcuts in relationship. If money can buy everything, why do you need to use your character? Why do you need to uphold your character? It's the easy route. I mean, that's just a very gross example, but this is what's happened in humanity. As a dependency on materialism, facilities has increased, we've somehow let go of our inner specialities, our inner dharma. And, to make karma elevated and positive, you have to go back to this subject of dharma. What is my original principles, my original innate religion? And this is where we start to understand in the Raj Yoga philosophy the concept of soul, because, I have a body through which I perform actions, karma. I see through the eyes, I make the hand move. The hand isn't just moving mindlessly to pick up a glass of water. There's a living energy inside that's making choices. Whether I want to drink a glass of water or a cup of tea, there's a living being making these choices inside. And so it's so important that the subject of dharma is deeply linked to my sense of identity. Who am I? Who is this living being that is operating through this body, and on what principles, with what energy is this living being operating? You know, when you operate off habits, you operate mindlessly. When you live with your dharma and principles, you operate conscientiously and consciously, mindfully. You know, I was sharing yesterday simple things, just in things in relation to ourselves. You're drinking a glass of water, or you're eating food, for example. How are you eating that food? How are you drinking that glass of water? Are you rushing it? Are you quickly eating your food? Or are you mindful that if your dharma is of peace, I'm going to eat peacefully. I'm going to drink peacefully. And then what starts to happen is you start feeding yourself practically. You create an environment, an atmosphere, and a vibration of peace for yourself because you've allowed that peace to operate through your karma. And so realizing yourself to be separate from this body is very important, to be able to reconnect with your original religion, because there's so many different kinds of religions now. You know, I'm just not talking about the main religions of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, etc., Sikhism. I'm talking about religions of the body. Smoking is a religion. Drinking is a religion. Anything that's an addiction has become a religion because it's a, how do you say, it's something that you'd have to do all the time. You're addicted to it. It's become also ingrained in your belief system. So there are so many different kinds of religions we've created. And those religions often underneath them have dependencies. We're not upholding anything, but we're filling a gap. And so very important that when I want to restore and I want to start performing positive karma, then I have to first start to consider myself to be a spiritual being having a human experience in life. And I have to deeply connect inside with the treasures of peace, purity, love, and bliss, and knowledge and truth that are my innate treasures inside. Yes, they've been masked over by all these various materialistic habits and religions, and yet at its depth, what does the human soul require to live? Peace of mind. This is what everybody wants, because this is who I am. And so in the practice of meditation, as we begin to slowly detach and withdraw our energies and focus inside and reconnect with our energy inside, it's like coming home to yourself. It's like starting to experience a lost peace again. We were searching and wandering for peace outside, and yet that same peace lay within. And so the premise and the basis of karma is reconnecting with dharma. Because dharma and my feelings, my intentions, my principles, they govern the outcome of karma. You know, there's a formula. Intention plus action equals outcome. Intention plus action equals outcome. And if I was to put a percentage to this, it would be 70% intention plus 30% action equals outcome. So much of the effect of our karma comes from the quality of our intentions. Purifying those intentions is what happens through the practice of meditation. Cleaning those intentions, making them good intentions, filling them with good wishes and feelings. You know, sometimes we feel in order to become spiritual, we have to let go of the world, or we have to let go of our family, we have to let go of things. And actually you don't. You have to fulfill your responsibility to the world, to the material roles and responsibilities you have. However, you can't let go of your dharma and karma whilst fulfilling them. And that's where we've gone wrong in humanity. At some point in time, we've deeply just dropped our specialness, our uniqueness, our dignity, our dharma, our dharana. And we've just, let our responsibilities control us. Let the world outside dictate to us how we should be. So definitely fulfill the code of conduct, your family, but don't let go of your dharma and karma. This is what defines your self-respect. There are certain things that I will not do because it is not who I am. And that's very important for me to know myself at this deep level inside. Who am I? Because that completely governs your experience and outcome of your karma. When you create an elevated vision, an elevated feeling for yourself, immediately your karma will fall into place. Even a smile, even a word will make somebody else feel elevated. Yes, we all have habits. They come in between and interrupt the flow of elevated and good wishes. And yet, a soul that has practiced deep detachment, the practice of going inside, connecting with the soul, will then be able to resist the pull of the habit. You won't be controlled by the habit. You're only controlled by habits because you still feed desires. You still want something. And the moment you stop feeding desires, when you start to feel nourished in yourself, then, a habit becomes redundant. It's like you don't need that thing anymore. It's not useful for you anymore. So this is why meditation is such an important precursor and preparation to elevating our karma. You can't lead a life of elevated karma without the practice of meditation. It's impossible. Because you won't have enough self-respect and goodness to resist your habits and to resist the pulls of the world, to resist the expectations of the world. You need your own strength inside. So, when we talk about in the Raja Yoga life becoming a karma yogi, this is where I, the soul, am connected with myself and I'm using these physical organs to perform actions in my life. But I am in control. The action is not in control. So I come into relationship with action, but not into bondage with action. So the action doesn't pull me. Well, for example, if I haven't done this, then I don't feel good. This is what happens on the path of devotion. This is when our belief systems on the path of devotion control us. Because I suppose when I was growing up and I had a grandmother and she had a little temple in her room. And of course, every morning at 3 o'clock, she'd be up, she'd be cleaning the idols, cleaning the temple, but getting some fruit, getting some flowers. And she just had to do that. And if one day she wasn't well and she couldn't do it, it would really disturb her. And I realized that ritual that she was following gave her a lot of comfort and a lot of security. But without that ritual, she felt disturbed. Didn't she have a connection with God? Who was she worshipping then? These were the questions that I was having in my mind. That surely, if you're following a daily ritual of some kind, and if you stop, there's a reason behind it. It must be fulfilling a relationship. But sometimes we've entered into mindless rituals because we hope that if we do this, then this will happen. But we live in hope. So we don't become intentional about what we have to do. And if we don't become intentional about what we have to do, then we definitely don't receive success, because when we are intentional, success follows us like a shadow. The ritual will not bring success. Yes, what the ritual helps to do is it helps to keep your senses in order and discipline. It keeps a kind of a decorum in place, but it doesn't replace intention. And so when we come into the bondage of karma, there are certain actions and habits that we fulfill and we keep fulfilling, because without kind of, feeding that, putting that plug in, we don't feel satisfied. And so karma yogi soul, a yogi soul, is one that has built and developed the ability to detach and to connect with its own inner peace, and then come out into a relationship of karma with a lot of love. And a karma yogi soul won't be upset or have dislike or jealousy towards another soul. Sometimes when people come in front of us, and sometimes there are some people that don't like anything. They dislike everything. They complain about everything. And sometimes you can be affected by that. That's also a karmic bondage, to be affected by that. It means I'm not in my position of being a karma yogi. Because when you are really in a position of being a karma yogi, there is mercy and compassion, even for someone who dislikes themselves and dislikes you. You can separate yourself from their karma, because their karma is their business, not yours. But you can only do that when you separate yourself from your karma. And you start to observe your karma as a detached observer. So, karma is multidimensional. We don't have to be bound by the fate of past karma. Now, there is the aspect of what is it that drives negative karma, vikarma, or sinful karma in literal terms. And this is when there's been corruption inside the soul, when the purity of the soul has become mixed with other motives, desires, greed, anger, manipulation, attachments. And when there are other influences operating inside the soul, our intentions become mixed. And as a result, our karma becomes mixed. That's when somebody can become quite manipulative. Instead of being sincere and honest and revealing, if you have mixed motives, you will become manipulative, because that becomes your modus operandi. You try and manipulate through just karma. And that doesn't work. We do this in relationships all the time. What do people do? We spend so much time trying to please people in our lives. Now, there's a big difference between making someone happy and content and pleasing someone. Pleasing someone means you're in a karmic bondage and you keep wanting to do something for that person so that they'll be happy, but you're not happy yourself. And internally you feel only if they're happy will you be happy. And that's an illusion you keep feeding. So you keep trying to please them with this and please them with that. And what's the result? They're never happy. And they're never grateful for everything you do to them. And so you're then left feeling, well, I've done all this for you and you can't even appreciate what I've done. But the mistake is yours, because you put aside your dharma, you put aside your own self, your identity, to try and make another happy. And that's not how spirituality works. Spiritual law means I have to sit on my own seat, my seat first. And then I have to come into karma, the appropriate karma that's needed for that time. I can't let myself be controlled by somebody else's unhappiness and fall into the trap of thinking, well, only if they're happy will I be happy. So at a very deep level, reclaiming your dharma, it means to reclaim your identity and responsibility for yourself and the kind of energy that you are generating and giving out in the world. That's so important, because this is what the law of karma is based on. Whatever it is I'm sending out as a vibration, the world is an echo chamber. It will come back to me. That energy will come back to me, and it will come back to me multiplied, because as time goes on, things multiply. And so, you know, I can't then in my own life say to me, why is this happening to me? The moment you start to meditate and become a yogi, and you take responsibility, then you understand the deep philosophy that whatever I create, I will have to receive in return. If not in this lifetime, in another lifetime. And so can I be responsible in what I'm creating? You know, and it could be that someone's had a bad mood and they take it out on you. It could be anything. But to ask the question why is not helpful at that point. It's to humbly internally accept this is their karma, this is their expression, but I'm receiving a return of it for something I may have done in a previous life. Now, can I let it go? It's settled. I'm not going to increase this karmic bondage and account by thinking about that person anymore. Because what happens is the moment you think about somebody, guess what? An account opens with their name on it. And in your subconscious, you've got all these little account books open with various little names on it. And whatever you're thinking about that person, feeling about that person is being deposited in that account. And at some point, whatever's deposited in that account has to be settled. So if you're thinking badly about somebody, it's a deficit. If you're thinking positively about somebody, it'll be enriched. And this is how, you know, sometimes it's such a subtle thing. Operating at a subtle level is very beautiful, because when you start to think about and have good wishes for someone, it's a vibration. Vibrations don't need physical distance. They reach instantly, seconds. And then the next time you meet them in the physical, your meeting will be so beautiful because it's enriched by how you prepared it. But if you've been having even a slightly waste thought or a negative thought about somebody, you watch, the next time you meet them in person, they won't be able to look at you properly. You won't be able to look at them properly. There won't be an easiness in your meeting. And so the way to ultimately make all your relationships good is to deeply hold on to the religion of thinking and feeling and generating good wishes for everyone in your life. And that does require you to give yourself the space and time to meditate. Now, you know, we do have to examine our motives, because sometimes, you know, we perform actions out of carelessness. That has a consequence. When you're careless, you will also receive the return of that carelessness. If you're lazy, you'll also receive the return of that laziness. So what you're doing with yourself is actually defining, however you relate to yourself is going to define how life relates to you. Because that's the vibe you're sending out to the whole world. So if you're thinking unworthy thoughts about yourself, negative thoughts about yourself, you're basically saying to the whole world, think that I'm unworthy, think that I'm negative, and you will receive more of that. Now, in the subject of changing karma and settling karma, we do need help. Because we've opened so many accounts by thinking, doing, speaking about other things, people misusing things. We've misused time, money, energy. We've even got an account with our own body, especially if you've misused your body. You know, people on drugs, when you've actively misused your body at some point later in life, that account has to be settled. Your body doesn't cooperate with you. So all of these accounts, how are they going to be settled? Do I have to go through each one single and settle it one by one? And you know, something very beautiful happens when we start to meditate. And in Raj Yoga, we say, when we start to have yoga. Because there's two levels in meditation. One, the first level is the level of mindfulness, becoming aware, self-aware of myself inside. And the second is the awareness of the Supreme, of God, of the divine. And it's in the second phase of meditation that the soul truly becomes empowered and can stand independent in its own truth. Because the mirror of God is probably the only cleanest mirror you have in your life, because that energy is the purest energy. When you look into the mirror of humans around you, you'll see your weaknesses, you might see your specialities, but you'll see a mixture. But when you look into the mirror of God, you will see what is pure and what is real inside you. And so when we take this time to really have yoga with the Supreme and to face that mirror of purity, then even though the impurity may surface, we will feel God's mercy for us, and we will be able to reach and experience our reality and authenticity, our beauty inside. Because the seed of specialities grows when it's watered by something pure. And so God's fragrance and God's energy, God's love, God's peace, God's virtues, powers, when the soul starts to recharge itself with this, the soul starts to restore its own dignity. And it's the power we receive from God that allows us to realize who we are. And that power allows us to break the cycle of negative habits, negative thinking, negative speaking, and negative activity. You cannot break that cycle intellectually. You cannot outthink negativity, because negativity is a force of energy. Have you ever tried reasoning with an angry person? Have you ever tried, talking to a greedy person? Have you ever tried, convincing a person who's full of desires? It doesn't work, because these energies feed on themselves. So there's no reason and rhyme to it. And so it's just a different frequency of energy. A spiritual frequency is like on a radio player, 105 FM. Non-spiritual, a materialistic frequency, a body frequency is like 99 FM. So the whole practice is about tuning my consciousness to the right frequency. When I tune in to myself, being aware of myself as a spiritual being, a child of God, I automatically start to become like that which I give attention to. I start to feel the softness of purity, softness of peace, softness of truth. But then when I forget that and I start to consider myself to be a body, and I see all my roles, my responsibilities, my image, what I have to upkeep, then at that frequency, all the data in the world that's operating at that frequency, it'll be like a traffic that enters my head. And that's how we then become sensitive to how other people see us, how other people think about us, how they speak to us. Because we are operating, our consciousness isn't tuned in to the right frequency. When your consciousness is tuned into a spiritual frequency, you will not take things personally. You will see things for what they are. You will take what you need to learn and you will move on. But when your consciousness is operating at a bodily frequency, image, role, etc., then you will be deeply concerned by how people perceive you and what people say about you. And it's like a vicious cycle, because then you have to meet their expectations, so they think good about you, and then you're caught up in a karmic bondage like that. You end up pleasing people. And you never actually realize who you are. It's so important to understand that to observe the influences that we are under. This is one of the benefits that I've found meditation has helped me with. The ability to be a detached observer, to just watch, what are the influences I'm under? Is there an influence of a past memory in this moment? Because if that memory comes back, then I'll see through the lens of that memory. I'll become sensitive if somebody speaks like that or does like that because it triggers a memory. Am I under the influence of somebody else's thinking and belief systems? Because influence will color my personality. And it will make you do things and say things where you think, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I wish I hadn't said that. But this is all language of being under an influence. It means I'm not in control. I don't know who I am. So one is being influenced. The second is watching by what's controlling you. And sometimes control is not just external, control is internal. You're controlled by your anger, for example. You're controlled by subconscious belief systems. So looking at what you're controlled by, because when you're controlled by something, you start acting without, you'll feel helpless. You will be acting without choice. It's like you feel you don't have a choice. You just have to do this. Karna padta hai na. Who said you have to do this? You're letting yourself be controlled by a belief system, by a lower level sanskar, a trait, so to speak. And then you say outside, oh, karna padta hai, we have to do this. This is the language of a slave, not a master. And then the third thing, which is probably, I would say, one of the most interesting phenomena I've observed and the deepest, because it's willing, is becoming attached. You see, you want to be free from an influence, you want to be free from control, but you actually want to get attached. Because attachment feeds some kind of sense of security inside. And under the influence and energy of attachment, we worry, we do crazy things, we neglect ourselves, it's incredible what people will do under the influence of attachment. And attachment eventually destroys your own personality because you've let yourself be so absorbed by something else that you don't know who you are anymore. And so what is the quality of your karma then? So breaking this cycle requires an incredible amount of spiritual power. And this is where I think we're at a time in humanity, a time in the cycle when the presence of God, the energy of the Supreme is so available to us. And there's a beautiful law, and I will call it a law because it's a godly law. And it's very deeply linked to the philosophy of karma, that when there is courage, the Father helps. If this wasn't a fixed law, then everybody would become number one in their lives. But if you maintain courage, that's the door and the frequency to open to receive God's help and power. And so what is courage? Courage is the courage to stay true to your values. Courage is the courage to detach. Courage is the courage to open a relationship with God, to face God, to belong to God, to stay in God's company. Anything that uplifts you takes courage. It's easy to fall down because you don't require any effort to fall down. But to climb up takes effort. And so courage is the act of choosing to uplift yourself. And when you do that, automatically you will receive God's help and power. And this is a beautiful law that in my own life I have seen work in incredible circumstances. I may not have had the ability, the skills, the talents to face what I was facing in that moment, to face the negativity, but yet I had the courage to be truthful. I had the courage to be peaceful. And I had the courage to keep good wishes no matter what anybody said about me. And I've witnessed firsthand how when you keep that kind of courage, eventually what you receive from God reaches that other soul. It's such a beautiful thing to watch that dynamic happen. But if in between you lose your courage, what happens is your mind gets disturbed. And then you can be meditating, but none of the benefits of your meditation is reaching anybody in your life. It's not uplifting anybody in your life. And so it's such a beautiful thing to keep courage, to maintain your dharma and your dharana. Because that's the road to receive God's help. And when you receive that help, you can put a full stop to the past. You can put a full stop to that cyclic effect of negative karma, because that's what power helps you do. It helps you press the pause button. And the only requirement for that is courage. You know, many years ago, before you go through your own journeys, and there was a time in my life when my grandfather developed lung cancer. And of course, it was the first time anybody in my life had become that sick, and he was going to die. And when they die, in the Indian custom, they bring the body home, and they did that. And of course, it's the first time I've ever seen a dead body. And I remember at that moment, it was so, I would say it was a big moment of realization for me, because I asked myself the question, if that was me tomorrow, would there be anything that I would regret having done or not having done? And so I asked myself this question regularly. Am I doing anything that I would have to repent for? If that's the case, then let me stop that now. Because I'm going to be the only person who suffers afterwards. I'm just looking at time, and perhaps what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about integrity, because this is connected with the law of karma. It's so important that if we're going to come back into a place of dharma and dharana, into a place of self-control, then it's very important not to be clever with the self, but to slow down a little bit inside. And to arrive at a point where in my life, what I'm thinking is what I'm speaking, is what I'm doing at any moment in life. So not to go too fast, but to create a pace inside yourself, so that what I'm thinking is what I'm speaking, what I'm speaking is what I'm doing. And that creates a healthy balance and flow inside. Because if we think too much about something, that also opens an account, unfulfilled thoughts. And those excess thoughts we have are a burden for us, right? They're a burden for us. They make us feel heavy. They don't let us do what we want to do. And so what are the thoughts I need to be thinking right now? Let me focus on that. Let me focus on speaking about that, giving that energy and putting that into action now. So slow yourself down, and that starts to create a personality of integrity. Then you become the same inside out. It's not that you make yourself big inside, but outside your reality is something completely different. So it's so important to face yourself and be honest with yourself, because that's the first basis of courage, of keeping courage and eventually receiving God's help, is to be really honest, is to deal with yourself, with your conscience and your heart, and not to be too clever with yourself. And then, as a closing remark, what do we do now? What is our focus at this time? And I feel for myself, habits can be replaced by new ones. good ones. So let me start opening up accounts that will start generating positive action and positive habits. And this is where I often talk about 3 accounts. Open up, when you go to a bank, you have money, you want to open up accounts. You deposit money in different kinds of accounts. One is your current account, your regular savings, your long-term savings. So in the same way, open up 3 accounts of karma. The first is the account of self-effort. What am I doing for myself? How much goodness am I accumulating? What good thoughts am I accumulating in my mind? What virtues am I developing in my character? What time am I giving myself? What energy am I giving myself? So what is the practical karma that I'm doing for myself in a day? Open that account, because that's your current account. If you don't look after yourself, you cannot look after anyone else. And remember, whatever is your mental state, that is as far as you can bring somebody. So if you don't elevate your own mental state, your own heart state, then you will only be able to take somebody as far as you are yourself. You cannot uplift somebody if you can't uplift yourself. And so the account of self-effort, that's the first account, very important. The second account is the account of blessings. You know, when we're in a benevolent state, what is service? Service is to bring benefit. Bringing benefit to something. Not pleasing, but bringing benefit, which is very different. And so when you start to detach and experience yourself to be the soul, you connect with the Supreme, you are filled with good energy. That good energy will make you perform spontaneous good karma. You know, it's like you're on autopilot. You know how when you wire up a doll and then you leave it and then the doll works automatically. So in the same way, meditation is like wiring up our spiritual frequency, and then that automatically lets us perform benevolent karma. So we will say things not to bring somebody down. We won't criticize somebody. But we know if somebody's made a mistake, we'll say something positive to uplift them. So for example, you know, I used to work with somebody who always used to get upset. Young brother in a center, and we always get upset over small things. And of course it was really hard because, you know, when you get upset all the time, how do you make him happy again? So one day I said to him, you know what? You're such a royal soul and getting upset doesn't suit you. So the next time you get upset, I'm just going to remind you that the king has fallen off his throne. Can the king get back on his throne? I didn't start criticizing him for getting upset. I understand he's a soul. I see his speciality, his royalty, his goodness, and then I see where he wobbles. And so let me keep that goodness in mind and contextualize someone's behavior against the backdrop of their goodness, not just to focus on their weakness all the time. Yeah, and that's how you accumulate blessings. And then a smile, a few words, people will feel uplifted by it. And blessings are medicine. You know, in Hindi, we say dua is dawa. Because when you're sick and you can't do anything for yourself, it's that account, your savings account of blessings, that will come to your rescue. It's people's blessings that will support you through a crisis. And then the third account, which is a bit of a long-term deposit, savings deposit account, and a harder account to accumulate in, but very necessary, is the account of charity. So we say, you know, sometimes charity in a materialistic context is giving food to the poor, giving clothes to people who don't have things. If there's a crisis, like there was the earthquake in Bhuj many years ago, plane loads of stuff went to people. So charity means to give at a time of need, so that someone can move forward. And this is especially important when people make mistakes. You know, what do you do when somebody makes a mistake in spiritual terms? Do you sit around talking about the mistake? Why did you do this? What did you do? Or do you instantly make effort to make them forget their mistake? Do you instantly make the effort to try and make them light and give them love so they can forget they made the mistake? That gets accumulated in your account of charity. Now, you need a lot of power for yourself and for someone else in that instance. You know, so our account of charity is really about filling somebody else's weakness with our own power. Where somebody doesn't have patience, can I fill it with patience? Where somebody doesn't have tolerance, can I have the tolerance for both of us? This is what accumulates in the account of charity. So now, if we have so much work to do to accumulate in these 3 bank accounts, what else do you have time for? What else do you have time for? There's no time for waste thoughts. Because you understand, every time you have a waste thought, you're opening an account. And the burden of those waste thoughts will only affect you. There's absolutely no point in having waste thoughts about anything or anyone, because it doesn't help anybody. So I'm going to stop there for the moment. And it's now 4:20. And I know that Jabin had said there would be a space for questions and answers. And so perhaps we can take a pause and see what has been bubbling for you. And if you have any questions or comments, if you'd like to put that in the chat box.
Thank you, Sister Gopi. Indeed, you have opened a lot of questions here for us, because karma is such a vast topic. And I don't know, I think everybody who's present here today, I'm sure, must be feeling the way I am feeling. I'm not satisfied. I want more, because there's so much more. Because to my understanding, karma, destiny, it's like a DNA. They work hand in hand. So yeah, maybe sometime we could go more into that topic. Because I have a question actually, which a friend of mine has requested me to put it up today, that she is, out of all the siblings, she's the only one who, out of everything that you can say, that happiness, prosperity, health, she's the only one who is not so good. So she feels, why God, why me? So what would you say to that, sister?
You know, you can't accept your karmic situation if you don't know who you are. So if you identify with your karmic situation, oh, I'm in a female body, oh, these are my circumstances, and then you compare with everything around you, you're starting from the wrong point. Does that make sense? Because comparison is absolutely futile. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was growing up, I used to go to a polio clinic, because that was part of our family's charity work. And I would work with the young children, I'd play with them. And these were children that didn't have arms, legs, you know, they were deformed, they had extremities. And yet they were some of the happiest children I knew, because they were born like that, but that's what was their reality, and they were happy in that reality. Then I remember watching one day a group of adults come into the clinic, and they must have come from abroad. Perhaps they were donors or sponsors or whatever. And you know, there was one lady who was so sad, and she was saying, oh, okay, oh, poor thing, and they must suffer so much because they don't have an arm. And I was starting to see 2 realities. She thinks happiness is having complete health, you know, and having arms, legs, and then she's projecting the fact that if she didn't have an arm and a leg, what she would feel like onto this child that doesn't have an arm and a leg, and yet is happier than she is in that moment. So it's so important to define happiness at a deeper level than just the externals of, be it your bodily situation, be it your financial situation, be it your relational situation. You have to go to a deeper spiritual identity inside and start to cultivate a sense of contentment inside. Then you will have the power to accept your karmic reality as it is, because it's completely unique for you. You know, you might say somebody else, okay, they might have a healthy body, but they'll have a depressed mind. I know lots of people, wealthiest people in the world, completely and utterly depressed. So what is your reference for accepting your karmic situation? It has to be a spiritual reference point. And you have to start with, what is it really that's going to make me happy inside? Because at some point, you know, to be able to accept what's happening to you, it takes courage and power. It takes a lot of detachment to see what's happening. Because, you know, people will say things, people will do things. And sometimes, you know, what's interesting is that we can't see what we're doing and what we're thinking and how we're operating, because we feel we're right. We operate from a place of ego. We don't operate from a place of spiritual reality. And then it's the ego that's blind to itself and then starts asking, oh, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening? And I realized this very recently in a relationship, in a service relationship. There was a particular, you know, relationship with a person that just, you know, this person would constantly be rejecting me. And I just could not understand why. And at some point, you know, as I moved away and stepped away, and I started to realize, okay, let me look into my life. And I started to see patterns of my own sanskar of rejection. And then I thought, how is this sanskar of rejection actually expressing itself in my life? And I realized it expresses itself in an egoic way. You know, I need to take a stand on something. I need to prove something. So the tone of my voice changes. And I realized that as the tone of my voice changes, people feel that I'm right. And so they automatically step away from me. But the root of them stepping away from me is not them, it's me, it's my sanskar. It's what I am doing to myself inside. And this is the deepest relationship with karma. I have to go deep inside, understand my sanskars, see them for what they are, and transform them. Because the root of karma is a sanskara, a trait. And if you want to disable that karmic account, you have to transform it from its roots. And, you know, I've been with people, I'll tell you a story. And it's a story that is of a colleague of somebody I knew who lived in Alaska, really out in the sticks. And this particular lady went through, she was connected with the BKs and, you know, had been taking knowledge and meditating for quite a while. And one day she was leaving her house and she was opening the car door, and somebody came from behind her and stabbed her 7 times. And of course, she couldn't see the attacker. And so she got taken to hospital, and when she woke up, she was paralyzed from neck down. And of course, that's a shock. It's a shock for the body, whatever's happened. Especially if you've had a reference point of a healthy body, and then suddenly there's another bodily reality. That's a shock experience, which is normal. And so in that shock, it was like, you know, the doctors were saying to her, you're not going to walk again, you're not going to. And she went through different stages of shock, of which disbelief is one, anger is one. This is like a human reaction, which is part of the bodily experience. It has to happen, it's normal. And when she started physio, she was feeling quite helpless. And the physio wasn't working. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And then it was a chief of a local Indian tribe came to see her and said to her, I want you to write down 10 things every day that you appreciate about yourself and life and about the people around you. 10 things every day. And he says, I'm going to leave that with you and I'm going to come see you in a month. And she started doing that. Every evening, she would sit down. It would be really difficult. She would write down pen and paper and she would start writing down what she appreciated about her life, what she appreciated about the people around her, what she appreciated about what she had. Suddenly, within the space of a couple of weeks, the physio started working. The body started responding. At the same time, what was very interesting was her counselors, parallel to that, you know what they do in counseling to help you neutralize, because that shock enters your memory and your cells. So what they do is to help you neutralize to the shock of that memory, they take you to that scene again, but with somebody you love, with somebody you feel safe with. So of course she used to invoke Baba, God, the Supreme. And she would then revisit that scene and again and again and again until all the fear disappeared and she was just left with good wishes for herself and for the person who did it. Then the physio started working double time. So this is such an interesting phenomenon. And it's amazing that within 6 months, she started taking her first step. Today she's walking, albeit with a stick, but she's walking. So what is it that controls our destiny? It is very deeply our dharma and our dharana.
Okay. Sister, another question is that whatever we are going through, this whole world going through this situation today, would you say is a karmic account?
I'd say it's a combination of karmic accounts. Absolutely. It's like there's two things. One is that, you know how in nature there are seasons. There's spring, summer, autumn, winter. So you see entropy, the law of entropy working. Everything that has a potential state has to come to a spent state. So right now, what we're seeing in terms of the humanity is the cycle of entropy at its lowest state. In Hindi, we call it tamo pradhan, the lowest form of energy. There's no spiritual potential left that we're operating with. And so one is that we're reaching the lowest ebbs of energy, inertia, violence. And so as we act on that energy, we are opening accounts. And those accounts have to be settled. Because life is about balance. It's trying to get you to a place of balance. But in this equation of these karmic accounts settling, be it with matter, be it with your own body, be it with nature, be it with people, the presence of God is more available now than ever before. Because it's the energy of God that helps you put a full stop to a cycle repeating itself. You need to have a big heart to accept something. So I find at this time what's really important is don't worry about your karmic accounts because they're there. It's a soup. Everybody's in their own unique soup of karmic accounts. So what? What I have to pay attention to is that I don't perform any more actions that I repent for. That's number one. Second, I've got to absolutely ramp up my connection with God. Because through that power, I will be able to face my fears with love. I'll be able to face my past with benevolence. Because it's only God's company that can keep you safe enough and in an elevated state enough to finish the past. There is no other way. So everything I do, it's like just as in this example with this particular individual, when the counselors were taking her back to that scene of where she was being stabbed with somebody safe, I do the same thing. When I'm talking to somebody, I spend a few moments just invoking God's presence so I'm not alone, so that their fear won't infect me. Somebody else's karmic rubbish won't touch me because I'm not doing things alone. And never face your past alone. It takes a lot of courage to accept your lot. I walked myself into where I am now. I've got to walk myself out. And so for a little while, I would suggest you don't think about your situation, because people become unhappy and suffer because they become situation conscious. They think, oh, if the situation's okay, I'll be okay. Guess what? The situation's never going to be okay. After COVID-19, normal will take on a completely different meaning. So, trying to live with some kind of hope and wish for matter to remain fixed, it's impossible. Even your body changes, gets old. But what do I need to do inside to stay happy, no matter what is happening outside me? That is what starts to turn the wheels of becoming a master of your destiny.
So this was the next question, that at today's day and time, there are so many of souls or people, you can say, that are not getting the bare minimum that they need. And everybody is saying that stay home, stay safe, don't go out. But stretching out to help them, isn't that a good karma that we would do?
I won't use the word help, because sometimes the word help can get corrupted. Why? Because, sometimes we have the sanskar of helping people, but neglecting ourselves in that process. What I'd like to say and recommend that people do is to use their time, money, and energy in a worthwhile way. Right? And that puts a completely different spin on it, because then I'm using something that I have for that is valuable for something valuable. So I am responsible. I will act responsibly. Sometimes in the spirit of helping, we give, but we give blindly, and then it gets wasted. But when you have the intention to use what you have in a worthwhile way, then even God will help you use it for an elevated task. And I've often found that in my conversation with the divine, with the supreme, when I really say I am available, use me in your elevated tasks. Your children are unlimited. You know where someone needs help. Let me be your helper. Then you become instrument for a far greater task than you could possibly imagine yourself. So I'd say if you want to become a helper, start to awaken that feeling of becoming God's helper. And then the drama in life and God will bring such amazing circumstances in you that everything that you have in your life, all your resources, will be used in a worthwhile way. Don't lose that link to try and help. Connect with that link, offer, and then follow the signals in the drama. That's more natural. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another question here we have, sister, is that with those of us who have just had a recent family or a loved one who has just passed away or left the body, we hope and pray that they are in a good place. But how do we know that this is the case?
Every soul's karmic situation is very unique and very complex. You cannot know about someone's karmic story. What you can do is that by sending them good wishes and really having meditation, they will receive the help of your good wishes to settle whatever they have to settle, to be able to move on, because they need help to move on. And sometimes if somebody's performed some karmas in their life or done something, and maybe they leave in sorrow, or they experience sorrow, then the greatest act of charity from my side is to make sure that I have extra meditation and that I have extra light. I connect with God and I send extra light to that soul, because they don't have a body anymore with which to settle it, to say sorry, to think this. But at least I can send that enough that will give them the help to move on. And yes, you know, the soul will have to receive a return of it. And one of the things that often in a spiritual life they talk about is that towards the end, you know, what does repentance look like? You'll suddenly, I think as the soul leaves the body, you'll suddenly start to have visions of everything you did. And just having those visions, you'll feel, oh my God, I did that. That feeling of repentance is what might be experienced. And that itself is a settlement. And so when the soul leaves the body and maybe there's a feeling of repentance, the best thing we can do is not to cry, not to have grief, because we pull them even more. It makes the soul more restless. We have to have yoga and meditation and generate good wishes for that soul.
Okay, we have another question here. Sister spoke about a karma, which is neutral karma. Can you give us an example of neutral karma?
Neutral karma is karma that has no reward to it. At this point in time of humanity, we are not in a place that we can have neutral, our karma is neutral. It's impossible because we have debts to settle. We've created karmic debts. We have to perform a lot of elevated action to settle those debts. So now it's the game of positive and elevated karma. But there was a time in humanity when our karma was neutral. And that's the time of spring. You know, we call the golden age of humanity. Because when you think about even the cycle, the seasons, there's spring, summer, autumn, winter. Then after winter, there's spring. But it's interesting what happens in winter, especially animals. You know, they go into hibernation. There's like a deeper preparation that happens. Animals store food, we store things. And then when spring comes, everything starts to open. And it's the same way that at this point in time, in the winter of humanity, if I start to increase the bank of my elevated karma, then as my consciousness increases, my karma increases, I'm starting to invoke a new reality of a golden age. And if many, many people are making this effort, it's the 100th monkey syndrome. Eventually, a new world has to come. And then in that new world, I will be living out the reward of everything I have accumulated now. And that's what akarma is. Yeah. I'm just reaping the fruits of everything I've prepared, I've accumulated now. And this is what we're doing, you know, as all of us begin this wave of becoming spiritually alive, spiritually awake. The old has to die, winter has to leave, but spring is coming. A new world is invoked through our consciousness, through our actions. And in that new world, which is why it's called the golden age, we are just reaping the reward of our pure karma now. The purity with which we've done things, the level of purity with which we've held things, is what operates in the golden age. And so it's like very synchronized. We're just living out our rewards. There's no comparison, no criticism. Everybody is happy with their lot, whatever it is, wherever they're at. Everybody is happy. And that's a state of akarma.
The next question is about the 3 accounts you spoke about: account of self-effort, account of blessings, and the person I think did not get the 3rd account, which is the account of charity, right?
Yes.
Okay. The next question is, when someone hurts us, why is there an urge to settle the account by hurting in return? Can that be avoided? Tit for tat.
So let's take a little close look at this. If somebody hurts us, Why are they hurting? What are they doing that's making them hurt us? They're operating from a place of their own insecurity, their own anger, their own weakness, if anything. Because when you're powerful, you can offer love. When you're weak, you can only offer anger. So what happens in me is I get infected with the same virus that they have. So if they're angry, I get angry. That's how it happens. Especially if I don't have any filter. I don't have God's company. I don't have a practice of meditation. I don't have detachment. I haven't accumulated this for myself. So what I get infected with is the virus of their anger. And of course, inside me, I have my own trace of anger. And so it's these traces of the vices. These are the roots of negativity that create these urges and impulses. You know, what drives us to manipulate things? Greed. What will drive us to, be possessive of somebody? It's our desires. So you have to deeply examine your urges. And is there a negative root to them? Now, of course, my greatest protection is my purity. When I conquer my own anger, somebody else's virus of anger can't touch me because there's no receptor to connect with. That's really important to understand, is that my greatest safety comes in purifying my mind and my heart and my body. And that comes in my relationship with God. In my own practice of meditation, I know for myself, if I don't meditate enough, I'll start to get a little irritated over something small. Because those low-level habits will take over. They become like a crutch that you lean on to get something done. And so to conquer anger, you need to accumulate the de-intoxication of silence and peace, of yourself, self-respect. To conquer lust, to conquer desires, you need to generate good wishes. You need to be a giver inside, an attitude, someone who has good wishes. To conquer attachment, you need to draw God's love. You need to deeply understand and feel spiritually. So all of these vices have their corresponding medicine, spiritual virtues as medicines. And as I start to redirect my attention and build my life on the basis of spiritual values, knowledge, principles, then suddenly, these things don't matter anymore. So you can't live life on a case-by-case basis. You have to step back and you have to look at, where is my energy going in my life? What am I doing to look after myself? Because if I'm not looking after myself, my low-level habits will control me. Somebody else's anger will control me. So you have to step back and you have to make sure that your life is based on 4 pillars. The first pillar is regular spiritual knowledge, a consumption of something that refreshes your mind, elevates your mind and your heart. So regular spiritual knowledge. The second is regular meditation. You need to have time to meditate. Morning, evening, best times for that. The third is it's very good to keep a little journal in which you can monitor your own character. And note at the end of every day, did you do something that was not in line with your dharma? Correct yourself, check and change yourself. And the fourth is service. Give what you have. Share realization. The highest form of service is spiritual service. It's giving knowledge to uplift someone's life. But not just knowledge from the head, but knowledge from a deeply realized state of having practiced it. And if you build your life around these 4 pillars, guaranteed you will develop spiritual resilience. Little things won't bother you. But if you've built your life around people and only people, then everything people will do will always affect you.
Talking about resilience, we have a session with Sister Jayanti on Friday on that, all about how to build our resilience during this challenging time, and how do we to be able to face challenges. So we need to build resilience. So yes, that is a good thing that you said. And we will take it deeper with Sister Jayanti on Friday. There's a next question here from a brother who's asking, how do I naturally become a karma yogi?
Beautiful. Develop love for God. You know, the karma yogi life, it's when the heart is with God and the hands are doing their work. To become detached requires love. And it's like a chicken egg thing. You know, the more loving you become to God, the more detached you become. The more detached you become, the more loving you become. And that's the description of a karma yogi soul. And so as a karma yogi, in a practical level, from time to time, before I start my karma, I set myself here. Who is performing this karma? And I'm performing this karma as a helper of God. So I'm not performing it alone. That's really important. Because if I do something alone, there's chances of the ego grabbing hold of me. I did this, look how good I am. And then you forget that you're in partnership with something much more unlimited. So it's very important to set yourself before you perform any karma. Set your spiritual position, tune yourself to be an instrument of God, to be a helper of God, and to really feel that presence before you start something. Because whatever energy you begin a task with is the energy that will determine its outcome. And then when you finish an action, throw it back up to the ocean. Don't take any fruit of it. You will get the fruit of happiness, but when I say don't take kacha fruit, raw fruit, don't think to yourself, oh, I did this, and wasn't I so good that I did this, and da da da. Just release it. And as you release what you've done and you forget what you've done, your happiness levels and your lightness levels will increase, and so will your detachment levels. So top and tail, slow down and top and be more mindful by topping and tailing your karma. Start with the consciousness of being a child of God, a godly helper. Set yourself there, and then on the other side, finish. As soon as you've done it, finish it, release it, throw it back up in the ocean.
The next question is, there is a sister who has attempted suicide and survived in the process. She lost one of her limbs, leaving her handicapped. Now again, she's having suicide tendencies. So what is your advice for her to develop the want to live and come closer to God? She has all the blame on God for her grief, which she does not agree that he is not to be blamed for.
I think I answered that question with my story about that sister from Alaska. I think that the first thing she needs to do is to understand that the mindset she is sustaining of blame is only an escape mindset. It's only harming her. And that, you know, sometimes in the process of grieving, there are many stages before you get to acceptance. Blaming, denial, anger, it's all part of that process. But having good wishes for that soul is important, because she will come to a place of acceptance. She has to, because you have to move forward in life. And I think what's very important that if she can be encouraged to do is to actually write down every day 10 things that she appreciates. It's an effort. You have to make this effort. Because if you don't make this effort, you cannot move forward in life. And if you don't have the courage to make this effort, then you can't even receive God's help. Because blame is absolutely a nonsense mindset. I mean, something happened. Can I take it as my lot? I feel pain about it. I feel anger about it. Okay, this is where I am now. But God is not to blame for my karma. And so at a very deep level, I think the first place is the sister has to just focus on her internal specialities. What do I appreciate about myself? What do I appreciate right now about the life that I have? What do I appreciate about the people I have in my life? And as that lens starts to change, the appreciation will start to expand the heart. And the anger and the blame will start to dissipate.
Next one is, when we get manipulated and people misuse our kindness, but still trust them, they repeat the same behavior over and over again. How to balance or discern how to give and how much to give?
It's interesting, I'm remembering Daddy as you speak this, Daddy Janki. Daddy, when people would come to Daddy Janki, Daddy would give toli, these little sweets. And even if it was one person that would come to Daddy, Daddy would say, how many in your family? She would be considerate about everybody else behind that one person. And she'd give that person what they needed for their family. So if they said, oh, I have 4 members in my family, she'd give them 4 pieces of toli. She wouldn't give them 20 pieces because then it would be wasted. So there's something about being economical and with a generous attitude, if you know what I mean. Now, the other thing is that if you want to serve, you can never be manipulated. But within the attitude of serving, you are responsible for how you are using and donating your time, money, and energy. You are responsible for that. So am I doing it blindly? So for example, am I giving 20 pieces of toli when only 4 are needed? Because then they're going to waste the rest, the 16 pieces. Or then next time they come in front of me, they'll expect that many again. So where is there the inaccuracy in my giving? My intention is to give, but there's something I'm not being accurate about somewhere, which might then be taken advantage of, And, the thing is, if you want to serve and if you want to give, and that's your intention, you can't be taken advantage of. If you want something in return, then you can be taken advantage of. Spiritual serving, when you're connected spiritually, there is a discernment for using everything you have in a worthwhile way for yourself and for someone else. What happens out of our own attachment and out of our own bhavna, we give more than is actually needed because we don't take the time to figure out what's actually needed. That's what it means to be economical and accurate. And then you can be as generous as you want.
We have another question. Is there something like collective karma that children can suffer because of someone's parents' karma or their parents' karma?
Absolutely. I mean, you're seeing the whole world go through a collective karma pickle. Each one of us is so intricately connected. Me even thinking about you even thinking about me is a subtle wavelength that's operating. So we are intricately connected. And yes, I think that there is an aspect of collective karma involved. But, within that is the context. Within that, the most important thing is, if I am an individual in part of a big collective karma piece, then what am I contributing into the collective? This is what a master will ask itself. And so my inner efforts to become spiritual, to become peaceful, to become loving, these are efforts that will contribute to the collective karma. So it's not a disadvantage. It can be used to your advantage. But it requires somebody to deeply realize inside, what do I have to give now? To change your mindset from taking and begging to being a benevolent donor in life. And to know that whatever effort I'm making for myself, it's a service to humanity. Self-service is world service. Because I'm intricately connected in a collective karma. And so if I don't look after myself and I neglect myself, the karma intricacies are influencing me. But if I look after myself and if I let my light shine, I'm contributing to those karmic bondages becoming karmic relationships of karma, where love and light and peace can be exchanged.
Next question is, do we souls take only one birth in this confluence age? Do we have to settle all karmic accounts in this one birth?
Yes. Very simple answer to that. Yes. There comes a moment in time when even time says time's up. And when that happens, it's like, you know how when a tape comes to an end, it speeds up very fast? This is what's happening now. The machinery of settlement of karma is speeding up very fast. And so we're settling individually, we're also settling collectively. And so either I settle through my own yoga power and my connection with God and my elevated karma, or I settle through situations. It's my choice. Whether I do it, I'm one step ahead of my karmic accounts in one sense, so that I'm always taking power to dissolve negativity, to finish what's wrong, because any negativity I'm holding onto in my life will still sustain some form of karmic account in my life. So have I made a contract with myself to finish negativity in my life? And if I make that conscious effort, conscientiously, I take it in my hands, I study, I meditate, then I'm one step ahead of my settlement. I can settle and I can choose how I want to settle. But if I still am a slave to my own negativity inside and I don't want to finish my negativity because it still feeds me, then I will have to settle accounts through the drama. And that might be more painful.
Thank you, sister. That was enlightening. Maybe we could have a few minutes of meditation
Yes.
before we end the session.
So I'd like to invite everybody to just, wherever they're sitting, to sit up straight. Give your body that respect. And obviously there's a lot of thoughts that have been shared, a lot of ideas that have been shared. And just feel in your heart what you've been inspired by. Let that inspiration take on a form of light. Let it light up the soul inside. And whatever inspiration and faith that has been awakened inside you, this is life. Serving others, helping others, is about transferring this faith, transferring inspiration. And so keeping myself inspired, filled with faith, filled with God's love. And I become a lighthouse in this dark world. I let the energy of this inspiration emanate out beyond me. The energy of this love emanate out. And know that this time that we have spent together, being inspired, has created a beautiful atmosphere and vibration. And somewhere, someone in this world is picking up this vibration and is being uplifted by it. Let me maintain courage to stay light, to stay benevolent, to stay close to God. And it will then inspire everyone else around me to be the same. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you once again, Sister Gopi. Thank you, everyone present with us today. You have been a wonderful audience. We are having our next session on Friday, as I mentioned. It will be at 4 o'clock Jakarta time. It is with Sister Jayanti, who is also a very well experienced sister in Raj Yoga meditation. And she will be sharing with us how to build resilience to face challenges. So do hope all of you would be able to join us and benefit from that session. Thank you very much. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.